called Paramotoring Over Everest. Will you please welcome Bear Grylls? Bear, welcome. How are you?
I knew that would come back to haunt me.
All right. I asked you when you were in the room there how you would describe yourself, and I know that you seem to find it a bit awkward, but I guess you are, in a sense, the tradition would be an explorer or an adventurer in the old sort of sense of the word. Would that be right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I do these survival shows for Channel 4, and I climb and I lead expeditions. But I always find it a little bit awkward when people go, "Well, what are you exactly?" I'm quite a normal person, I think, really.
So you were already out there doing this kind of thing, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the army for 5 years before all of this, and then I had a parachuting accident whilst I was there, where I had a canopy rip into at about 16,000 feet as it was getting dark in Africa, and
so hold it,
broke my back.
You were leaping out of a plane at the time, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah.
And then the parachute split in half.
Well, it ripped, and I came spiraling down very fast and blacked out and smashed into the desert, and then broke my back in 3 places, and I had to kind of leave the army after that. Spent 18 months in rehabilitation and trying to rebuild my life, I guess.
That could well have killed you, of course, couldn't it? I mean...
Yeah, it should have killed me. It should have paralysed me. So I was a very lucky bear, lucky bunny, yeah.
So when you left the army, then, I mean, like, having this close call, you then went out to do kind of more challenging and crazy things. Most of us,
I've been as a kid, the one thing I could always do well, which was to climb, and a lot of my job through the army was the climbing and the survival side of things. And I think sort of suddenly being stuck on my back and not being able to do anything, and the doctor saying you're not going to walk again properly, I think what I wanted was just to get back to what I was familiar with and what I was good with, and that for me was the climbing. And Everest for me had been a huge dream as a kid growing up from the age of about 8, when my late dad gave me this picture of it, and that really became then the focus of my recovery. And you
used to climb with your dad, didn't you, when you were a youngster?
Yeah, I mean, it was my earliest memories were really a climbing with him, and I think at age 4 or 5, it's as much about just wanting to be close to him, really, as about, I didn't like being freezing cold and scared up a cliff face, but it was my way of spending time with him. So yeah, that was a big part of my life growing up.
Did you ever speak to him when you were young and say that you wanted to climb mountains, that you wanted to do Everest when you were a little one?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real dream we sort of had together, and he was still alive when I climbed it, which for me was a real joy, that he kind of lived to see all of that, and I know he was really proud when...
But that's the sort of thing most of us, you think of it, you hear about people climbing Everest, and you don't really think about the reality of what's involved and how dangerous it is, because, quite a few people have done it. But I know it's still one of the most tremendous challenges that someone can face, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I think, only 30-odd Brits have ever climbed it, and, it still kills 1 in 8 people up there. And
when you say you had 4 people die, what is it the main cause of the people don't make it back down? Is it lack of preparation? Is it just the luck of the draw?
Luck is definitely a big part of it. I think when we were there, 2 guys died of the cold and 2 fell. But, it's just it's right on the threshold of what humans can achieve, altitude-wise. So, and there's a very small margin for things going wrong. And, I've just been out there recently doing this flying thing, and I know how fast the weather changes. Literally from hour to hour, you can go from 0 mile an hour winds to suddenly sort of jet streams at 100 miles an hour. So it is a lottery up there. I'm definitely no longer brave enough to ever go back to that mountain. I'm done. I just want a kind of nice cup of tea.
But you've just come back from flying over it. Well, I don't know what you're eating before you go to bed, but these dreams are just getting you into trouble, Bear. Okay? I go to bed, I dream about who's in the new Big Brother, maybe, and think, disappointing choices made there. I don't dream about flying above a mountain with just a tiny bit of silk keeping me up.
I need some more of the Big Brother dreams, I think. Yeah. I just feel I need 10 lifetimes to scratch the surface of the things I'd love to do. And the more I travel through these survival shows, the more I realise, actually, we live in an amazing world, that there's so many brilliant places and extraordinary places and people and things to do. So, anyway, it's enough of the chat. We've got to get on with it.
What were you going to do then? I thought you were going to attack me or something. That's one of the challenges. Wrestle a far fitter, healthier man to the ground. Bear, when you were in the parachute thing, what's it called? Paramotoring?
Yeah, they're called parajets, these things. Strap yourself into a bit of parachute above, you run off the side of a mountain, and it just blasts you then off the ground. And I fly them loads at sea level, and they're great. What was difficult up there is the world record altitude for these things was 17,000 feet. We were taking off at 14,000 feet and going to over 29. So, wow. I mean, normally we have 20 horsepower on our back, a big, propeller engine. Yeah. We were carrying 100 horsepower, so it took three or four men to help lift us. just sitting in this thing before takeoff that morning at 5 in the morning, you know, my standing pulse was 150. Just half of it's terrified, but the other half's just the amount of weight you've got on your back.
And when you get up there, what's the biggest? I mean, presumably you're worried that the machine might not function, but can you breathe at that altitude?
Well, you breathe because of the oxygen you're given.
So you've got a tank with you.
You've got a tank, but if that goes wrong, you're gone unconscious in 30 seconds and you'll be dead soon after. So the challenge for us was weight. So we couldn't have spare tanks, we couldn't have spares of anything. So our life was really this little, you know, mask we were breathing through.
OK, listen. We've established that we're cut from very similar cloth. When the chips are down, we rise to the occasion.
Okay? We do.
And yet it isn't just mountain climbing, mountaineering that you've done. You've been to extreme temperatures. You've really sort of tested yourself against all the elements, from what I can see. Would that be correct?
Well, this last year has been pretty mad, I think, filming this Born Survivor series, just because it's been so back-to-back filming and mad sort of jungles to deserts to mountains, and I get dropped in the middle of these places just in the clothes. And
where are you there? Can you tell us where you are? Is that and that?
That's
I know
why
this is
I'm
going to sound
sweating.
like a stupid question, but that's very hot there, isn't it?
At one point, I mean, I had my shoes were smoking at one point on these things, but it was volcanoes are dangerous places. That was a very brief moment, and I was off the really nasty bit quite
Bear,
quickly.
why did you go there? What are you doing on a volcano? What's wrong with you?
Well, it's my job with these Survivor shows, so it's kind of what I do. It's what I was trained to do. I was trained in the Survivor.
Do you like
stuff.
doing it?
I love it. You know, I'd be completely unemployable at anything sensible. I come alive out there. I've got, you know.
Ben, what's the best that's going to happen for you on a volcano, right? They put you there. The best that's happened is you get out in one piece, right? That's not my idea of a nice day out. So they drop you there. Do
you know what happens?
There's no shops, right? There's nowhere to relax. You're not going to meet anyone. You know, it's like, what are you doing?
But I think the life goes from one extreme to the other, because the shows are quite full on and at times pretty miserable. You're cold, you're wet, you're lost, all of that. But literally, the minute we get out of there and finish, I'm heli down, back on a, you know, nice sort of club class ticket home. And I got a nice back home, and the kids are there, and it's all making fairy cakes with them, and it's, you know, so.
But see, that's a lovely side of it. But then you go off and you do more, and you caught a snake at one time and try to eat a snake. Is this right? And well, I mean, let's talk about the food you eat when you're out there, because I've seen you put some unusual things in your mouth. Okay, what's the strangest thing you've eaten to survive or for one of your shows? What's the weirdest thing?
I was in Iceland just before leaving for the Everest stuff, where I found a dead sheep and ended up eating its eyeball, and I remember...
No, I imagine they'd be quite tasty. Would they be?
Well, I always thought it was going to be a bit like a hard-boiled egg, but actually, I bit into this thing, it was just blood and gristle, and literally just, like, exploded, and I remember, you know, Simon the cameraman just looking at me and just see sort of disgust on his face as he's filming it. But
are you sure you grabbed it from the right end of the sheep?
That's another Icelandic delicacy,
Yeah,
actually.
I bet it's a fine thing. So sheep's eyeball.
So we've had that.
Okay.
I've had endless snakes, scorpions, ants, elephant dung, scorpions.
Okay. Can you explain to me what's going on here?
Blood is very nutritious. You don't want to waste the blood, so I drank the blood.
And it comes in like a carton, really, doesn't it? I mean, it's like it's been provided. All you need is a straw, and you're good to go with the tar. What about? I have some footage of you eating a zebra.
Well, that was an amazing moment actually in Kenya, where I came across this lion kill at about, you know, just after dawn, and it had been killed by a pride of lions about an hour earlier. They'd eaten all the blood, soft organs, gone off to get something to drink, so the amount of protein they had, and literally it was still warm, and I could cut into the neck and just, you know, eat this. So,
were you not worried the lions would come back and say, hey, hang on?
Well, I didn't hang around. I was there a couple of minutes, and then... It was all fine, apart from the bit of elephant turd that dropped into my mouth.
Well, what did you expect? You could have squeezed it into a cup, perhaps, or sieved it off.
It's not time for that sort of stuff, Jonathan. We're on.
Do the elephants look over and see you doing that and think, what's he doing?
Get a look at it.
How long after you get back from one of your trips away does your wife wait before she lets you kiss her properly? Because she must know what you've been putting in your mouth.
Do you know, actually, I kind of discuss it very little when I get home. I tend to get home, and she goes, how was it? And I go, well, it was right. And she goes, yeah, anyway, here's the nappy, and if you could just... I'm kind of back into
And you
life.
pick it up and
you
go,
know
son. No, Bear, no. You're home now. We have taps. Bear, I'm a big fan of yours. I love your shows. I hope you take best care when you're away. It's one of those things where you watch it and you think, I'm thrilled you're doing it, because it's fascinating to see. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to your new stuff. I know they're showing you in America now. Where are you heading off to? What new adventures do you have planned?
I'm going on a really nice holiday to the Welsh coast, back in a spade for a couple of weeks, and then we start filming in the Sahara for the next series after that.
Bear, how great to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Good luck, continued success. Bear Grylls, ladies and gentlemen. That was great. Thank you, Bear.
Take care.